Hey everybody, welcome to Fit Tip Tuesday. Today I'm going to do a multiple student question. I had two sold out classes for my Easy Fit and Sew yoga pants at Sew Expo a few weeks ago. I'm getting a lot of requests for how to make a pocket using the Trident Yoga Pant Pattern. So I just want to show you, I have it here in front of me. This pattern has a 3-piece leg, and it's perfect for adding a pocket. And quite honestly, now that I'm looking at this, I don't know why I didn't include the pocket in the original pattern. So I thought what I would do is show you how to very easily design a pocket that can be inserted right in the center panel. Because each leg has a front piece and a back piece, and then a side panel that wraps around front to back. Perfect for creating a pocket that you can slide your iPhone into or whatever. So you can see here, I turned up my edges of my hems because I'm going to be making a capri length pair because it's going to become spring any minute, and I'm already looking forward to not wearing my long ankle length yoga pants. So I'm just going to untape this now because I've already cut out my pieces, and I'll show those to you in a minute. But basically, this is what the pattern looks like, and I'm going to show you how to create a pocket up here on the center panel. So I'm going to put the front and back away for now. The first thing is you have to decide where you want your pocket to be. The top edge of the Trident Yoga Pants pattern sits right at the base of the waistband. So for me to just reach over and feel like I'm just feeling like on the yoga pants I have on now, I think I'd want the top of my pocket to start, a few inches below the waistband. So I'm going to design this right on my pattern piece. So I'm going to start by measuring down. Let's measure down. I'm going to measure down 6 inches, and I'm just going to draw a line here. Okay, and I'm going to have it be at an angle. Okay, so just keeping in perspective what we're looking at here. This is my back, and this is the front. Okay, just so we can keep it in perspective. So I'm going to make a pocket that starts about 6 inches from the waist in the back, but I'm going to angle it down towards the front a little bit. And that way, if I'm, trying to put something in there, it'll just have a little bit of an angle. So I'm going to actually angle it a little bit more now that I have my starting position. So actually, I'm going to actually use a Sharpie so you can see. All right, so we've got, let's make this the top edge of my pocket. And then you have to decide how long you want your pocket to be. And I'm guessing for a lot of people, one of the things they may actually put into their pocket is their phone. So I'm just going to use my iPhone as an example here. And I'm going to create a bottom to my pocket, maybe like down here. I don't want it to be, too much deeper than my phone. Okay, so I'm just going to do that. Okay, so that's going to be the shape of my pocket. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to put this tracing paper on top of my pattern piece, and I'm going to trace it. We just use a few of my little pattern weights here. And I'll just draw the grain line. I'll transfer that through so I have that as a guide. And then I'm just going to draw my top edge and my bottom edge. Okay, and then I'm also just going to trace the original side edges of the pattern piece. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to just insert this into the seam when we sew the yoga pant. All right, so there is the shape of my pocket. So what we need to do now is add a hem allowance at the top and the bottom. So let's go ahead and do that. I can move this out of my way now. All right, so we're going to add allowances at the top for the hem and to turn the bottom edge under. Now here's the thing, because this top edge is at an angle, I can't just extend and create a hem allowance. What I'm going to do is I am going to fold the top edge down, okay, as if I had turned my hem under. Okay, so on the bottom I'm going to add a 1/2 inch allowance. Okay, and let's cut that out with this folded edge folded down. And what it's going to do is it's going to create the right shape for the hem allowance to lay flat on the wrong side of the pocket. So I'm just going to use my ruler here, and I'm going to cut this out. I mean, it's basically a straight line. Okay, and then I'm going to let's trim the bottom away. Okay, and then I'm going to flip up my extra paper, and you can see what's happened here is it's created sort of an angle for my hem allowance at the top. So let me just mark that, and actually I'll just cut it off. I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch at the top. So you can see the shape of it is on this angle, so when you fold it down, it matches. Okay, so that's how you create the hem allowance at the top. And I think I'm going to keep those side panels the solid gray. So I'm going to cut out my pockets out of the same gray that I used for my side panel. All right, that looks like that's nice and on grain. So, and it's just wide enough that I can cut this out. So let me just use, I guess I'll just use this. Okay, so I'm just going to cut across the bottom. And across the top. And then of course when I get to this little hem allowance, I'm just going to follow that angle, and then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. All right, so there is my 2 cut out pockets. Let's see what they look like. Okay, you can see much better in the gray fabric how that's going to work. And just to make it really clear what I'm doing here, I'm just going to draw myself a line from point to point. That's going to be my fold line for the top edge. Let me do the other one. All right, so we're going to have to do a little prep work to these pockets before we can sew them on, because the first step is going to be to fold down the hem allowance like this, so I can top stitch that in place. Plus we're going to want to fold the bottom edge under that 1/2 inch as well. We're not going to top stitch it in place. I'm actually going to sew it to the leg at that point. So let me get my sewing machine set up, and I'll just show you quickly how to put these pockets on. And then, of course, I'm going to end up with a new pair of yoga pants. I'm super excited. Okay, I'm at the machine now, and I have a scrap here because I want to test how it's going to look before I do it real deal on my pocket. So I'm going to sew through a double layer of fabric, and I'm going to put my machine on the triple zigzag, and I'm just going to see how it looks. I want to just look at this for a second. That's looking pretty nice. I think I can get a better result if I actually attach my presser foot that has a built-in feed dogs, because I think that will help feed the top layer of fabric at the same rate of speed. So this Janome 67P has these amazing feet that have built-in feed dogs. So let me just switch that. Let's try it. See how much better the machine stitches on the fabric. When I used the traditional foot, it was pushing the fabric, the top layer, forward. But because the feed dogs are underneath here, look what's happening. It's sewing without pushing the top layer. So that's why I love these feet that come with the feed dogs underneath. And look at how nice and flat that is. Like, that's excellent. And look how stretchy that is. That's going to be a perfect top edge to the pocket. So now let's put the actual pocket under here, and I'm going to line up the folded edge with the 5/8 inch line, because that will ensure that I'm sewing on my actual hem allowance behind there. I can't see it because it's underneath, but I know it's 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to start stitching. Okay, all the way across. Okay, and you'll notice I'm not back tacking because we're going to catch the ends into the seams of, into the seams of the legs. But look how nice that looks. So let me do my second pocket. All right, so now let's go back over to the cutting table, and I'm going to show you how to prep the next step. All right, so now the next step is I want to position my pockets in place here. Okay, so see how that looks? There's one pocket. All right, and here's the other one. Okay, so I've got those lined up. Okay, and the next step is we are going to turn this edge under 1/2 inch. And I'm just eyeballing it. Okay, I'm going to turn that under 1/2 inch, and then let's use some pins to pin it back in place. I'm going to sew this bottom edge down. So I'm just lining up the folded end of the pocket with those marks. Okay, so there's one, and then here's my other one. I really don't like to use the iron when I'm working with the performance sports knit because it can melt really easily. So just be patient and finger press. All right, we're just going to sew the bottom edge of this pocket right onto the leg. So let's go back to the sewing machine. Just make sure this is nice and in place here. I didn't pin it anywhere else, so I just want to make sure everything lines back up. And I'm going to use the same zigzag to sew this on. All right, so see how that looks? Okay, and let's do the opposite leg. I'm just stitching pretty close to the folded bottom edge here. Just grab my pin cushion. Okay. All right, so that looks lovely. What I'm going to do here is I am just going to tack it up at the top. I'm literally just going to stitch back and forth for a hot second to hold it. I'm not going to baste the whole edge. I just want to hold the top of, or the hem edge of the pocket in place, so when I go to sew it together, I don't have to worry about that not ending up right. So see, I'm just getting it nice and positioned, and then I'm just going to tack it within the seam allowance here. Okay. All right, so see how that looks? Like literally I just sewed a little tack there just to hold it. That way I know that's going to be right on. Let me do this one. Now, if you have a serger and you want to use your cover hem to do this, you know, feel free, because that would work really well too. I just wanted to keep it simple on my sewing machine. Okay, and then let me just do this one. All right, let's go back over to the work table. I'm going to shut this off because we're all done here. All right, so I've set my serger up for a 3-thread super stretch stitch. I don't know if you caught that episode of the Bernina L460 serger manual that I'm doing on Sundays, but ever since I started working with that stitch, I absolutely love it for things like sewing yoga pants. So I've got that set up, and if you're curious about the 3-thread super stretch stitch, I'll put a link to that video below in the description. But for right now, I've got these are my side panels with my pockets ready to go. I'm going to take my fronts and backs and I'm going to pin those on. So first I have my fronts, and this is the right side of my front. So I'm going to pin those together. And I'm going to use my Wonder Clips for this. So to pin the side panel on, I'm basically going to match it at the bottom. And then I'm going to match it up at the top. And then I'll put a couple more pins in. But basically I'm just putting right sides together here. This is such an instant gratification kind of garment project. So I'm just going to, you know, pin it in a couple places here. All right, and then let me do the other one. This is my opposite side. And again, I'm just going to start at the bottom, match those edges. And then I'll go to the top and match those edges. And one of the benefits of your Wonder Clips is the fact that you can clip them on and they don't fall off. So like I literally can clip all my pieces together in one step without worrying about like losing a pin, because sometimes traditional pins work themselves out of the fabric by the time you get to them. So that's another reason why I love Wonder Clips, because they really stay nicely. All right, so I've got those pinned, and then just to show you what I mean, I'm going to flip this open. Okay, you can sort of see how that's going to work out. There's the pocket. Here's my back piece, and again, I'm going to put right sides together, and I'll just pin these together as well, and then we can go to the serger and serge all the seams in one step. So basically I'm going to make 2 tubes. It's a little more work than the Easy Fit and Sew yoga pants because you've got a few more pieces, but really the seams sew together pretty fast. So let me just stick a pin up here. I call Wonder Clips pins in case you haven't noticed. Just put a few in here, and then let me just do the other leg. You know, anytime you can combine steps when you're sewing, it just makes it a little bit more efficient as well. So basically, I can get all this done in one step instead of going back and forth between the serger and pinning. It just makes it a little bit more efficient, I think. All right, so I've got these all pinned together. Let's go to the serger. I'm going to drag my serger over here and show you how to zip it together with that 3-thread super stretch stitch. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at the top edge here. And I've already tested my fabric, okay, so you always want to do a sample fabric. My differential feed is at 1.25, so between 1 and 1.5. My stitch length is at 2.5. Cutting width is at 6. So I'm just skimming a little bit off as I sew. Okay, so let's do the other seam here. And again, I'm going to start at the top and go down. Alright, so now that I've sewn those 2 seams, we have a panel, and I can just show you quickly. There's my pocket. Isn't that neat? Okay, so I'm going to just do one other step. I'm just going to finish this entire leg. I'm just going to bring my inseams together here. And I really don't even need to pin this, to be honest with you. I'm just going to start at the top. I'm just going to sew my inseam. Alright, so now I've got one completed leg. Let me just sew the other one and I'll be right back, and then I'll show you how to put these yoga pants together. Alright, so look how cool that pocket is. It's inserted right into the seam. Okay, and I have another one on this leg. Okay, see how cool that is? Alright, so now the next step is to turn one leg inside out. So I'm going to turn this one inside out, and then I'm going to put the one that's right side out inside of it. So here is my inside out leg, and you can see the shape of my crotch here. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to insert it into that leg, matching my inseams. Okay, so here are my two inseams right here. So I'm just going to put a pin there to hold it. And then I'm going to reach up to the back. Okay, so see, this is my back crotch right here. So I'm going to just match up the waist to the back and put a pin right here. And then I'm going to get my front organized. All right, so the next step is to sew the crotch. Okay, so just so you can get a good look at it, that's what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to start up at the front, and as I sew through the inseam, my inseams are going to be pushed to the back, and then I'll just go finish that. Okay, and then I'll just continue right on to the back waist edge. All right, so let me get that set up. All right, so I'm just going to start in the front. And I'm just going to work my way right around. Here's my inseams. I want to make sure I cut these threads off. And then I'm just going to continue right to the back. Okay. Let's take a look at our basically constructed yoga pants. Like I said, this is a really instant gratification project. If you're looking for something to sew today, to wear today, yoga pants is definitely on the list. Okay. Okay, so this is what the back looks like. And I know it's the back because the top edge is a little bit higher. But I think having the top edge of the pocket on a slight angle is a little bit more attractive front to back. This is what the front looks like. Okay, so there's the pocket. And then of course when these are on, they're going to stretch snug around my legs, so any looseness you see is not going to be visible. All right, these are so cool. I cannot wait to wear them. But we still have to finish the waist and hem edges. And what I'm going to do, I've already pre-cut my waistband. Okay, so this is my waistband. Okay, and what I do to make sure it's the right length is I fold it in half. Well, first I folded it widthwise in half, okay, and then I folded it lengthwise in half. And I'm going to cut this waistband so it's just a tad shorter than the waist edge of my yoga pants. So probably right about here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to sew it into a circle, and then I'm going to sew this on. So that's the next step. Let me show you how they came out. Okay, so here is the waistband for the top. And then I decided to add a cuff onto the bottom as well. And I think that just makes a cute finish. It almost looks like a jogger kind of hem. So let me just show you quickly how to do that. I made a rectangle the exact length of my hem when it was folded in half. So let me just show you here. Okay, so see how that matches, you know, almost perfectly. Okay, so what you do then is you sew it into a circle, and when I do my waistbands and things like this, I like to sew the seam on the sewing machine because it's less bulky than doing it on the serger. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half like this. And because it's almost exactly the same length around as the hem, it really pops on really quick. So this is like almost, again, an instant gratification in terms of finishing the hem. I'm going to slide it onto the bottom of the leg here, and I'm going to line the seam up that I have with the inseam, because that's the least conspicuous place to put it. So I'm just going to match up the inseam with the seams on the band. Okay, and then I'm just going to stretch it, all 3 layers together, like this. Okay, and so that's how I know that if I clip over here where my thumb is, that's going to be the halfway point for both the band and the hem. Okay, I'll just stretch it out one more time so you can see like it evenly distributes for me. So I'm just going to put one more over here. Let me just drag my serger over and I'll show you how to just sew this quick. All right, so I'm going to sew inside the circle because it's such a small opening here, and I'm just going to start in front of one of my clips. Really doesn't matter which one. Okay, so I'm going to get all the layers together. I'm just going to stick all 3 layers underneath there, and I'm just going to sort of organize the fabric in front of the presser foot like this, and then I'm just going to serge that together. Okay, and then when I get around to my start point, what I like to do is cut off my tail. So once that's cut off, I like to go in and rotate my blade down so it's out of the way and it's not cutting. All right, and then I'm just going to overlap my start point by about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to lift up the presser foot, push everything out of the way so that there's nothing under the needles. And basically I've slipped the fabric off the stitch fingers. I'm going to put my presser foot down and chain off. Alright, so you can see that that just makes a really cool hem finish, okay, for these yoga pants. All right, so you can see you have this really cute cuffs at the bottom. We have our pockets on the side, and we have our finished waistband up at the top. So in the process of me showing you how to draft a pocket for the Trident Yoga Pants, I actually inspired myself to make a pair, so I hope I inspired you to make a pair as well. This is a super fun pattern to work with. You can do color blocking, you could make, you know, a solid color pair, you could use mesh. I mean, there's so many opportunities for creativity with this pattern, so I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to put a link to the Trident Yoga Pants pattern in the description below if you'd like to try this yourself. I hope you guys are enjoying Fit Tip Tuesdays. I will see you on Friday with a new skirt design that I'm making from the skirt sloper that I did a few FabFit Fridays ago on my Ditto form. So, oh, and speaking of, let me just show you, because I have it on my dress form. This is the skirt that I finished from the straight skirt sloper. Isn't it cute? So that's just a little peek of that. I made a drawstring and everything. So if you're interested in this skirt, make sure you check out last week's FabFit Friday. I constructed the whole thing using the flat lock and reverse flat lock stitches. So that was a lot of fun. So anyway, I will see you guys on Friday for another FabFit Friday. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and please remember to post your questions or comments below if you need help, because I am very happy to help you. So I will see you again very soon.